Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is Sunday and it is 2 o'clock. Time to have an Inverclyde live stream. But first, a little music. Enjoy. So, good afternoon to all those folks of Inverclyde and beyond. I hope you're all well, and it would be nice if the river actually looked like the river behind me. Unfortunately, it doesn't. Now, for anyone who is here watching YouTube perhaps for the first time, I have to explain that normally live streams on YouTube last the minimum of 2 hours and often considerably longer. But I have no intention of making these Sunday afternoon live streams anything like that length of time. Hopefully an hour or slightly more if I get questions that need answered, or I'm making a point that needs finishing. Then I will allow myself to overrun beyond the hour. So let me begin by introducing myself again, and I'll probably go on doing this for some good time. My name is John Davidson, and I am the founder and leader at the present time of the Pensioners Party. Now, the Pensioners Party is registered, fully registered, as a mainstream political party of the UK, which means that the party is able to stand in local elections all over Scotland, England and Wales. It is also able to stand in national elections all over Scotland, England and Wales. But for these purposes, I am standing in the hope of being elected as a local town councillor in the Inverclyde area, thus the live stream, so that I get the opportunity to speak to people of Inverclyde, but more importantly, they get the opportunity to see me, to hear me, hear my views, and if they wish, they can type in a question or a comment or a disagreement, whatever they wish to do. And that's the idea. Now, this has not been done before in UK politics so far as I am aware, but I think it's something that is really needed because there is a huge disconnect between us ordinary people and professional career politicians. And that, in part, is why I launched my own political party. Because having lived the length of time I have lived and seen Labour and Tory governments come and go, what can I tell you that you don't already know? They promise the earth and deliver nothing. For us, it is always jam tomorrow, and jam that rarely comes, and when it does come, there's not very much of it. And that's just on one level. On other levels, I have seen Tory governments come and Labour governments come, and they are not shy at dragging us into foreign wars. But it's our children that go off and die in these wars. Seldom is it any political professional son or daughter who go off and die in the wars. That's on a big scale. But all I would ask you to do is consider your own life, no matter what age you are, and ask yourself, Am I any better off because the Tories are in power? Was I any better off when Labour was in power? Now, I know the answer to that question, or I'm confident I know the answer to that question. Because I know in my life that I've never really been better off, no matter who's in power. Any improvement in my life, I had to make it myself. And I'm sure that'll be the same in your life. So where does politics figure in all of this? Well, it figures in all of this if I ask you to consider the local situation very simply. So what do we have in the town council? Any town council. That's correct, Doc. There's no difference between them. Well, on the one hand, you've got a group of elected people who usually, but not always, usually are members of a political party. In Inverclyde, we have, or had, 5 independents. The rest were made up from the usual bunch of suspects: Tories, Labour, Lib Dems, SNP. And we vote for them on the promises that they make. And we are expected to trust them, to make good on what they say. But once the elections are over, they are free to follow whatever they wish, even at council level. Budgie Burger is saying it mostly feels like the proverbial hamster wheel, and he's correct, of course. It's a nice analogy. A little hamster running round. Difference being, of course, the hamster appears not to know any better. But we know better. And when I speak to people on the street, and I have been speaking to people on the street, I usually do, I'm that kind of person. I like speaking to folk. I'm not surprised when I hear so many people saying that they're not even going to vote. Now, I do understand this attitude. I really do understand it. However, if you don't vote, if enough of you don't vote, then nothing will change. Because by default, people who are party members will vote their own party members in, and you'll get the same motley crew. The faces may change, but the parties don't. So the attitudes are not really changing. So it doesn't matter if Joe Bloggs is Labour or it's Mrs. Smith who's Labour. The fact that it's Labour will not change anything, because at a local level they receive instructions from on high as to how to vote and how to proceed on particular matters of policy. And that's the consequences of not voting. But I do understand that if you feel that there is no choice for you because you already know all this, and so you just stop voting. But if you are like that and you don't wish to give me your vote if you're in Ward 4, then the best solution is to properly spoil your vote, because they have to count them then, and it has to be registered as a spoiled vote. And that, at least, is a paper protest. And how you spoil it properly is by drawing a diagonal line from the top right hand corner to the bottom left all the way through the ticket, and printing none of the above. They have to then count it as a vote of no confidence in them. If that is where you are, you're so disgusted. But I'm here to ask you to consider trying something different. Trying a political party that doesn't have an ideology but has a philosophy, which is quite different. So what have we got at the local level? It's exactly the same at the local level as it is at the national level. These individuals get voted in, and then between them they vote little leaders. And someone gets to be the provost. That's usually by some kind of arrangement or convention, or perhaps even tradition in some places. There'll be some long-standing tradition that allows some person to become the provost for a year or so. But then what happens is they sit down, this group of people, and they now have access to a never-ending ocean of money. And it is never-ending, and it is an ocean. Because it's tax, which we all have to pay. And if we don't pay it, well, eventually you can end up in trouble, criminal trouble. You can end up getting taken to court eventually. And if you insist, if you still insist in not paying this, you can actually end up in prison. Just in case you don't know this. It takes no account, of course, whether you've got the money or not. That's irrelevant. So you have this group of people sitting around a table who have got access to an ocean of money that isn't theirs, and they have no responsibility for. What happens if they make a colossal error? Well, nothing happens, because that ocean of money will just keep on coming in, because it's compulsory, and there is no mechanism to deal with gross incompetence. So if somebody makes some huge, horrendous mistake in their choices, well, they shrug their shoulders and they move on to the next possible error. And that's how councils work. They get all this money coming in and they have to decide. Now obviously there are certain things that need priority over, such as we all need to have fresh drinking water, so that is a responsibility, and those bills and those costs have to be paid to keep that going. Same with dealing with sewerage, street lighting, all of that stuff is, if you like, everyday expenses for the council to pay on our behalf. But there are many others that aren't. And that's where the politics comes in. So if you are one of the many people who are aggrieved whenever the council spend money on public art projects, well, it's the councillors who decide that they want something done in the town or in some part of the town. At the moment, not far from where I am, there is a man on a mechanical crane painting a mural on a gable end halfway down Nicholson Street. I had a good look at it yesterday. It's not yet finished, of course. He's still up there doing this work. Yeah, I don't know anything about it. Don't know who the man is. I don't know who instigated this idea. I don't know who approved the art itself. But it's getting close to completion. And for the life of me, I cannot see the relevance of this. I am told it's a reproduction of a Goya painting. Well, I've checked. I've got a couple of books on my shelf on the painter Goya, and I can't find this painting. And I've checked the internet and I can't find it. So I don't know if it really is someone's attempt at reproducing a Goya painting. But it's up there. Did we pay for it? Well, to some extent we've paid for it. How much? I don't know. I don't know who was consulted in any of it. And that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Whatever that cost, I mean, it was a perfectly good gable end. It wasn't as though it was unsightly or anything, right? It was a finished gable end. Now it has a painting on it. But there will be people already saying to themselves, and I'll be one of them, how much did it cost, and would that money have been better spent? For example, in what I had been talking about to David Goodwin of the Greenock Telegraph, this merry-go-round that some of our young men, and I should have included young women, of course, in and out of prison via petty crime and drug abuse. I think that's correct. It's that transparency is needed. Well, perhaps there is transparency and I'm not aware of it. And Budgie here is making, of course, the correct point. There is a tsunami of currency, is the word he's using, and not a drop belongs to the government, and that is true of local government. None of this money that is taken from us, and that's the way I've always seen taxation, it's money that is taken from us. None of it belongs to any single councillor, and if you consider the total number of councillors as the council, it does not belong to them either. It belongs to us. And I think it's way past time that proper accountability started at the local government level. and found its way up to national government. But it would need to start at local government. And these, what I call vanity projects, these art projects, is a good place to start. Now, it will be an improvement if this is a local artist that's working down there. That will be a step forward, because it will be the first. But how many art projects do we need of that nature? Vanity projects. Well, I don't know. I just know that when I speak to people on the street, everyone just nods their head in complaint and further drives them from voting for anybody. And that's bad, because that allows the professional politician to do even more grievous things with our money. If they're not held accountable, they'll just go on doing these things. And you need somebody that you have confidence in who will stand up to that. It's just irresponsible. Oh, it's only £100,000 or whatever it is. To people like you and I, £100,000 is an absolute fortune. Most of us would retire on that and live quite a comfortable life, I should think. So that's what the Pensioner Party stands for. Common sense. To bring common sense to politics, and to put the people's needs first, because that's what it's supposed to be. Not what the politicians want. They're supposed to work for us. They're supposed to carry out our wishes, providing our wishes are not crazy, of course. And we have a lot of social problems in Inverclyde, just like the rest of Scotland and unfortunately the rest of the UK. Social problems exist everywhere, and they always have, of course. Are they getting worse? Well, they appear to be. But perhaps that's always the way it is. It always appears as though social problems are getting worse. I think they are. I think I can say that they are. When I was a young man, the social problem around here was alcohol abuse, no doubt about it. Far too many men were heavy drinkers. Far too many men slid into alcoholism. But now that's been added to with the advent of drugs. Now, we could sit here all afternoon and talk about how the drugs got here in the first place, but we're past that. The drugs are here. So we now have two massive social problems going on in tandem. And no doubt some of these younger men and women who are cycling round in and out of prison almost all of their life are caught on both of these social problems, alcohol and booze. And normally, well, not normally, I shouldn't say that, but far too often, alcohol, drugs often create violence, which is another social problem. Now, after a lifetime of watching what the mainstream parties do, well, they seem to simply think all you need to do is throw money at a problem and it will be solved. But that just isn't the case. Money certainly helps, and you certainly need money to set up small, dedicated, focused organizations staffed with the correct people, and that's the important part. They need to be staffed with people who know what they're doing, are good at what they're doing, and want to do what they're doing. In other words, help other people. That all sounds very easy, but isn't. So as a counsellor, I would be hoping to direct public funds, your money, in other words, into projects where we're going to try at least make an improvement in someone's life and help them get back on their feet. They may never have been on their feet. That is part of the problem also. A lot of these younger people are coming out of dysfunctional families because alcohol and drugs becomes a generational problem, and has. Drink's been a generational problem around here for a long time, since I can remember. And we have to find better ways of tackling that. Not everyone is suited to the AAA, for example. That doesn't work for everybody. I don't know about the drugs, what works for that. Again, I suspect it's just like alcohol. There are many different solutions because there are many individuals, and it's all about individuals. How did that person get there in the first place? And that's where you need a high ratio of people to support an individual. You can't do this stuff on a shoestring budget. You just can't. People who are so desperate, they need lots of hand holding, so to speak. They need lots of support, and that costs money. Now, being on the council, I will not have the opportunity, because I will be a single person, to take charge of one of these things. But my view is that if there are 5 or 6 independents, we can hopefully form coalitions on particular issues and force those in the majority to see things a little more our way. And that's as much as I can expect to do as a one person from our party being elected, is to form coalitions. And that will depend on the issue, and it will change from issue to issue. So I'm not sitting here promising the earth to you. What I'm saying is, if you asked me the direct question, so John, what is the Pensioners Party? Is it a right-wing party? Is it a left-wing party? Is it a centre road party? I will say to you, it's none of those. It's a philosophical party, which means that, assuming I were in charge of the council, I would be looking for what is regarded as the best solution to each individual problem. And I don't care if it comes from the left or the right or the centre. Nor do I care, and it would be great if the actual solution or the pointer to the actual solution came from the public. That'd be even better. And that's why I refuse to answer that question, because we are not right, left or centre. I'm only interested, and the party is only interested in getting what we consider to be the best answer for each social problem that we have in our community. Anything else is just foolishness. To reject something simply because it came from a left winger or even a communist is silly if it's a good solution. Similarly, it would be daft to turn some great idea down simply because it came from some right winger. Solutions are what we're after here, not flags. And that's the kind of person that you will get in the Pensioners Party, because the people who are already members are like myself. That's the way they see politics. Money and the right attention. Of course. And that would make the difference. Well, me being a councillor, then I'm sitting at the table where that ocean of money is going to be spent. I can have an input into it, how it is spent. Because like you, at the moment, I'm just the same. I'm just a citizen. I can moan and complain and criticise all I like just the same as you can, but I can do nothing. If I get to sit at that table, then at least I can have an input into the discussion about how that money is spent and why it's being spent in the way that it's being spent, and who brought that idea up in the first place. Like this mural, whose idea was that? How was that all organised, and who funded it? Who saw to the funding of it all? And what do they see the benefit for the people of Inverclyde? And where it's situated, of course, so many of the people of Inverclyde, you're just not going to see it. If you don't go down Nicholson Street or round the front of B&M, you will not see this mural. Unlike where the Tin Men are. So I don't quite get the purpose of the mural and the actual image that's being put up. I don't see it. I just don't get it. And to me at the moment that would seem to be a waste of public money yet again. Whereas it could have been spent elsewhere. My gosh, I've run over time already. And I'll finish up with one more thing, and next week I'll go into a lot more. And that is, if you have children in school, then if you're not aware, then you need to know that the SNP have passed new laws, and they're going to bring in enormous changes to what your child is going to be taught at school. And when it comes to the council level, I suspect councils will only get to rubber stamp it, and it will go into the schools, and your child will be taught. And what will they be taught? Well, briefly, little boys will be taught that if they don't think they're little boys, they actually might be little girls. And little girls will be taught, well, if you don't feel like a little girl, perhaps you're not a little girl. Perhaps you're really a little boy. And that's what's coming, folks. Even teachers, any teacher who doesn't agree with this will be forced to teach it, or they will be censured. They may even lose their job. But it's coming. It's already happening in England. There are schools in England at the moment teaching little children, don't call your mummy and daddy mummy and daddy. You call them him, and you call them her. I wish that weren't true, but it is. And this is coming to a school near your child. Perhaps not this coming August, but certainly next August it will be here. I'm sure they've already passed the laws.
So I've got my...
I'm sure they have passed the laws. It needs to go through the bureaucratic system, over to the education department, down through their bureaucracy to the school, well, to the local councils, who will then implement it. I don't know if at that stage, even if I were sitting at that table, will I have any mechanism for holding it up. I won't be able to stop it, but I might be able to somehow hold it up for a bit. But I can tell you all now, when that comes and you start protesting outside the school, I'll be there along with you, whether I'm a counsellor or not. And I don't have any children in school. My son's well grown up, and you can count on that. I will be there against it. It is absolutely disgusting and criminal. So you need to know that, folks. You need to know it. There is one last thing that I would like to mention to you, is there is a group starting up on the 25th of February in one of the offices facing the town hall underneath what used to be the public library, and it's asking for your opinions about how the SNP government can help you if you're on the edge of losing your house. My answer to that, I'll probably go along myself because I've been there. I've been in that situation personally, and in my experience, the only thing that will help is money. The money men only want their money. They don't care how you go up in the position you're in. They just want their money. But anyway, if you're, and I hope none of you are, but if you're in this position, it's Friday 25th February and it's Inverclyde Community Care Forum, and that's in Clyde Square, just under what used to be the library. It might be useful and helpful to go along and speak to someone. So I shall return next Sunday and speak to you again, folks. But for the moment, I'll say good afternoon and enjoy the music. So, as I usually say, adios, au revoir, cheerio, and until next Sunday, 2 o'clock, goodbye for now.
There once was a good time when we built all the great ships here, but that once time is our lost time now. That is our yesteryear. Sugar cane from Jamaica, put a sweet tooth in every mouth, and the cod
And thanks for everyone who
once was
showed up in the chat today. I appreciate all of that support. Thank you.
of the South. Factory girls, topped with scarves, made the sugar, spun the bread, and the tough men who made the great ships great were proud to call themselves red. There once was a good time when we built all the great ships here, but that once time is our lost time now. That is our yesteryear. Raw tobacco from Virginia wandered next to ruby wine, moved by dirty puffing steam trains to factories of the line. Good old blokes from Old Glasgow, Cooper barrels for the whiskey trade. All the world knew that the legend claimed the best ships were always Clyde made. There once was a good time when we built all the great ships here, but that once time is our lost time now. That is our yesteryear. But that once time is our lost time now. That is our yesteryear. But that once time is our lost time now. That is our yesteryear. What that once time
So take care, everyone, and hopefully I will see you all next Sunday, same time, same place.